Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest, but first we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, remember, these are all companies, they're all great companies that you should be using as an athletic director. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. Probably one of the best equipment purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. We also want to say thanks to our friends at Hettler. You know, as a football coach, I used Hettler for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Hettler school. And our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just love the tools that the Hettler platform provides. Go to Hettler.com, join the 100 million users, and turn your school into a Hettler school. That's Hettler.com. We want to say thanks to Home Campus. Scheduling, rosters, results, facilities. Home Campus is a platform that does all those things, does it better and faster than the other platforms. Their athletic eligibility and clearance feature alone is a game changer. Go to homecampus.com, tell them you heard about it on the podcast, find out all the great things that they can do for you. Homecampus.com. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame, along with Beacon Creative. Now, Beacon Creative is taking Wall of Fame to the next level. Wall of Fame's been helping schools bring their legacy to life for over a decade, but Beacon Creative, it's a content creation service that's going to take your data, your stories, your students, and come up with compelling narratives that you can then upload to your social media platforms. You got to see it to believe it. I want you to email John Townsend, and you can do that at John, John, at beaconwalloffame.com. Beacon Creative Wall of Fame, a winning team. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let them help you become a social media marketing guru. Your school, your athletic department's doing great work, and Gipper provides easy-to-use tools that's going to help tell your story, engage your audience, and grow your brand. Go to Gipper.com to get started. That's Gipper.com. We'd like to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's through the Ohio program, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. And while they were earning their degrees, they also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to thank Booster Hub. Booster Hub is the #1 Booster Club software package, and it's the platform that your boosters need and deserve. Sponsorship payments, meal plans, concession sales, it all goes through their secure system. Volunteer tracking and volunteer changes, nothing falls through the cracks. Spirit gear sales, communication, volunteer scheduling, all of this gives your boosters more time to support you as fans. And isn't that what you want? Once again, give your boosters the platform they deserve. Go to boosterhub.com. And we want to say thanks to Hometown. Hometown continues to be a leader with their solutions that include things like, well, digital ticketing, of course, but how about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction? The list just goes on and on. Whether you're a athletic director, a principal, even a coach, Hometown is going to show you how to save time, how to raise more money, and how to bring your community together. You'll find it all at hometown.com. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. You know, in my school, we use surveys for just about everything, for student athletes, for coaches, and for parents. And the information that came back on these surveys, it was incredibly valuable. and usually over the top positive. We still got to hear from our squeaky wheel parents, but the surveys allowed us to hear their concerns, usually address their problems before it turned into something big. But getting back to that positive data, having all of that when you're visiting with a frustrated parent can really be a game changer. How about when you're visiting with your principal or even your school board? Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Going all the way up to New Hampshire today, and we're going to be visiting with Chris Hettler. Chris is a certified athletic administrator. He's the director of athletics at the Derryfield School, and again, that's in New Hampshire. Excited to hear his story, his journey in athletics. But Chris Hettler, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Jake, thanks so much for having me today. Excited to be on the show.
Well, for our listeners, we're recording this on February 5th, and, if you've been following the news, you know that the whole northeast corner of the United States is under snow, and, that's no exception for Chris. We've got this nice picture of his stadium in the background, but I'm guessing that's probably under a couple of feet of snow right now.
It's being used by our Nordic team. They're out there. They're out there on the turf right now doing their laps on the snow.
I love it. We haven't started Nordic sports down here in Florida yet, but we'll see what happens. Chris, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us your quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. Just take us up through your college days, and then we'll take a break. But what's the Chris Hettler origin story?
Well, Jake, I was an upstate New York kid. I grew up in the Syracuse, New York area, Liverpool, New York. Went to Liverpool High School. I loved growing up in upstate New York. You get all four seasons. Was able to play a lot of different sports. I mainly my big background was lacrosse, but I also dabbled in soccer, did some basketball, skied a lot. Swim team in high school. So I knew I enjoyed sports from an early age. But lacrosse was where I found my passion. Right time, right place. If anybody knows anything about upstate New York, the Syracuse area, I grew up at the right time in the hotbed of lacrosse, one of the hotbeds of lacrosse. My best friend, I think, bought me a stick when I was in, I think it was second grade for my second grade birthday. Got hooked on the sport, and then, like I said, because I was in the right place at the right time, I had access to some great coaches, in a high school program that was well established. From there, I got recruited to Colgate University. I tell everybody the funniest thing is, wonderful university, great academics, great sports programs. I lived probably 45 minutes away, and until probably my senior year in high school, I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't even know about the school. And then luckiest kid in the world. I had a great 4-year experience at Colgate. I was a biology major. It was definitely difficult balancing. I bring that story to my kids all the time now. Balancing academics while also trying to play varsity sports in college was really difficult, but I think it really helped to shape who I am today. Balancing labs and all those different things. Got to the end of my 4 years at Colgate and wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with that biology degree. Wasn't sure if I wanted to go back and do research or get out in the field. Or my mom was an elementary art school teacher, and I'd been around teachers and things like that. Thought I would try maybe teaching while I was figuring things out. Went around to a bunch of different private schools, looked at some places, came to New Hampshire, kind of fell in love with the area. Thought I'd be here a couple years, and 24 years later, man, here I am. So it was a good move. It was kind of, I think, like anything, I got a little bit lucky in finding right place, right time, but, it's been great. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Again, I just love to hear the stories. You mentioned, lacrosse. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon, and lacrosse, I think, is just barely making its way out to some of those areas now. I always felt when I found out about this sport that that would have been the thing for me. I was a football guy, I was a track guy, and geez, running around, hitting people with a stick. I think I would have been all over that. But I always enjoyed watching the game, and as an athletic director at some private schools here in Florida that had lacrosse, Just really, really, I think it's safe to say I fell in love with the sport. I love to watch it. Um, let's go back to that growing up in upstate New York. Were you out in the country? Were you in a small town? Was it street lacrosse or driveway or street hockey in the wintertime? What are some of those memories?
Oh yeah, man. No, I mean that was the best part of upstate New York is you truly got all four seasons, right? Sometimes you got four seasons in the spring. Sometimes you went from winter, spring, summer, fall, all between March and June in that time span. But yeah, it was great. We did a lot of, we got to be kids too. We played a lot of street hockey. You played football out in the backyard. You did those things. And then, I tell all the kids, and I hope that sports are coming back around to this. I played Little League baseball and lacrosse all the way up through eighth grade, which now it's harder and harder to do those type of things. Again, played rec soccer, played rec basketball. I swam for my high school team. I did, there were so many things that, yes, I played lacrosse, throughout all the seasons, but I got to experience all those other sports. And I'm sure you've heard other ADs probably talk about this. It's getting harder and harder for kids to be able to continue to do those things because the demands around specializing are increasing. And there's no doubt that, if you specialize in a sport, you're certainly going to get better. But I don't know about you, but I have seen a lot of burnout with kids after high school and things like that because they have been doing their sport for so long with those things.
No, and you're absolutely right. Doing something year round, I guess I'll concede you might get a little bit better on some of the skill aspects of it. But and I'm older than you, but when we were in school, you never heard about kids getting, quote, burned out from a sport
Right.
because they were doing all these different sports. And you know it as an athlete, as a coach, as an AD,
Yeah.
you get better because you're doing those other sports, better conditioned. You get tougher. What's going to make a kid tougher? Practicing another sport or playing in another tournament after driving 4 hours on a Saturday morning. Get off my soapbox now.
Mental resilience too, right? Grit, right? You're like, you're trying something that maybe you're not as good at, right? And you're pushing through a little bit of adversity there, whether it's physical or mental, right? I love, on my lacrosse team, I love having kids that play soccer, basketball, right? Because not only, they're developing different skill sets, but they know what to do when the ball isn't in their hands or on their foot. They understand spacing. And yeah, they're competing, right? They're competing in other sports. They're becoming mentally tough and resilient.
I love it. Grit, toughness, resilient, and again that sport awareness. You talked about it, spacing. Absolutely. Okay, we can get off our soapboxes now, but I think that sound we hear is our listeners applauding. Um, as you got into high school, okay, and again, you mentioned a ton of different sports that you're doing. What are some memories that really stick out for you now? I'll say a few years later. What still sticks in
Sure.
your memory?
Yeah, believe it or not, my best friends to this day are still from the swim team. Lacrosse was always my number one sport, but the best friendships I made were from that swim team. And again, in college, my best friends were on the lacrosse team, and I think it's because of, all those things we talked about, just the shared bonding of what you go through, whether it's whether it's the physical trials at practice every day, the road trips, the team dinners, all those fun times that you have, the team parties that you have together, things like that. And that's what I've tried to, when I first got to Derryfield, that was one of the things that I tried to bring here is that sort of shared community, right? And those friendships and those bonds that are going to sort of transcend even if you stop playing that sport, right? You're going to carry those things with you as you go on. And it's one of the big things that I've tried to instill in my coaches here is like at the end of the day, the kids they have to go home in having fun at practice and wanting to come back the next day, right? Like if you're completely focused on just winning all the time, you're going to burn those kids out and they're not going to have fun anymore, right? And so that's what my swim experience in high school was like. That we had some very serious kids who were destined to go on and swim in college, and I enjoyed it because my friends were on the team, and it pushed I pushed myself harder because I wanted to be there with them and I wanted to keep up with them because we were having such a good time. And that's what I've tried to tell my coaches: make your practices fun so that kids want to be there, right? Like don't force them to be there. They should want to be there every day, right? And so that those are some of my lasting memories from high school there. That,
You,
so.
you you probably see me smiling. Just before we got on, I literally got a text from my best friend from we go all the way back to fifth grade. And he and I just had our 50th high school reunion this past summer. Played basketball together. We were on the track team together. Actually went to the same junior college together to run track. And you're absolutely right. We still share those stories, those memories. Just great stuff. And I think as coaches, we're all competitive. We all want to win, and I think we do our best to win and help our kids win. But I think the bigger picture, we want to make sure that our student athletes, after they leave us, that they had that chance to develop those relationships that they're going to be talking about 30, 40, 50 years down the road.
Couldn't agree more.
Let's
Yeah.
go and jump to college. Colgate. Okay. My image of Colgate is they just used to turn out running backs for the Oakland Raiders back in the 70s and 80s. That's how old I am. What are some of your Colgate memories you can share with us?
Great small school atmosphere. I felt like I got the best of both worlds in terms of like, there was big time football and hockey while they're there, so there were plenty of things to do on the weekends with your friends. I remember going to football games with the lacrosse team and selling 50-50 raffle tickets and doing that kind of stuff. And then the hockey games on Friday and Saturday nights. And then, like I talked about, like lacrosse at that point was taking off where it was sort of year round. We had our fall ball, we had our lifting and conditioning during the winter, and you had your spring season and stuff like that. And I think the unique part for me was that my coaches really understood that like I'm a very competitive athlete, but I was also there for an education. And they allowed me to be able to create a schedule that worked so that I could do the lab classes that I needed and I wasn't missing time. I remember to this day, last night, my biology professor he still texts me the scores. Like Colgate was playing Army last night, I think, in basketball, and we're just chatting over that. I've got a couple kids from the travel program that I coach here in New Hampshire for lacrosse that play for Colgate now on the varsity lacrosse team there, and he'll be texting me all kinds. So it was a really neat relationship that way, where like you got to know your professors. And I've been out for over 20 years, right? And I still have those relationships with those professors. So it's pretty neat. It was really unique opportunity to go there.
Oh yeah, no. I just getting goosebumps thinking about those same experiences that I had as a college athlete. Let's go and take our first break. Our guest today, as I mentioned, is Chris Hettler. He's a certified athletic administrator, and he's the director of athletics at the Derryfield School in New Hampshire. We're taking that break, but we're coming back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. You've heard me say before, probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. We use it for home games, of course, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. Their products are incredibly versatile and their customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just loved the tools that came on the Huddle platform. Go to huddle.com, join the 100 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast.
Jake, man, I gotta tell you, we're one of those 1 million schools that use Huddle there. We love it. As a basketball lacrosse school, we use it all the time, man. You are right. The analytics on there, you can't beat it. Definitely as coaches, helps to create those scouting reports that we need each week. So love it.
Well, I appreciate you giving it that shout out. And again, I don't know if you're I don't know if you're old enough to remember, pre-huddle where you're breaking down those VHS tapes by hand, pause, start, stop, and then on Saturdays you're driving as an young assistant football coach. You're driving that VHS copy to exchange with the other school you're going to play next week for about 3 hours in the cold through to a convenience store. Now it's just you push a button, boom, and that video is exchanged. So yeah, huddle's great.
Would have
Thanks for
made things a lot easier in college. Yeah. Yeah. I sat through a lot of scouting meetings in college trying to get the coach to fast forward or rewind to the right
oh,
place. So yeah.
oh my gosh, I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned as a coach. Instead, when I was in high school, when I was in college, I went to a small college. You watch the whole damn tape. They didn't give you your position cut ups or everything. And I started doing that same thing as a head football coach, making the kids sit through everything. And with Huddle, I was able to send players 8 plays, 10 plays. Hey, I want you to watch these. This is what
Yeah.
you're looking
Before
for.
the meeting.
It
Yeah.
just so much easier and
And
so
the
much more
and the
effective.
film quality. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Like, I think back now, I'm like, how did we even watch that VHS? Like, how did you even see anything on there?
Oh,
But
yeah.
you
Yeah.
adapt. Yeah.
And I in college I was a wide receiver, and all we had was a tight view. So hey, coach, I had a great block on that play because we never threw the ball. So you're right. All right, we digress. Um, let's go ahead and get started back or get restarted with our interview. Um, Chris, you mentioned that after graduation, you kind of ended up at your starting place, but um, I'm curious as to your thought process, becoming that teacher, that career educator. You mentioned that your mom had been a teacher and you'd been around that. Was it something that just kind of happened by happenstance, or did you just have this feeling, hey, I want to be like Coach Smith back in high school, or Coach Jones? How did you get that teaching, coaching bug?
Well, the short, funny answer is I didn't want to live in my parents' basement after college. So I knew I had to try something. And but no, in all seriousness, I knew I enjoyed coaching and teaching a little bit. I got to do I got my hands wet a little bit while I was still in college and in high school getting to coach. I had two younger brothers, and so with their youth teams and different things like that, I often got to be on the sidelines and help coach and do different things like that. For like a lot of kids, summer jobs, I did camps and I was a Boy Scout troop leader and did all those kinds of stuff. So I knew I enjoyed kind of being around young adults and helping and teaching and doing things like that. And again, as I said, I was really going into this thinking that, all right, 2, 3 years, we'll kind of figure out things. Maybe I want to go back to school, things like that. And the more that I got out here, I realized one, it's a lot like upstate New York. I love the area out here. There's a lot of opportunities. Like I said, we're less than an hour away from Boston. You want to go to the beach for less than an hour away. The mountains, you go skiing, you're an hour away. So all those things kind of drew me to being here. And then I just kept getting more opportunities. I met some great people out here. Lacrosse really hadn't come to New Hampshire yet in the way that it is now. So I got kind of in on the ground floor and got some opportunities to coach and do some things there. When I came to Derryfield, I was pretty young. I was 23 years old. And I got some opportunities to be a varsity coach right away that I may not have someplace else. I got to be so funny story at like a traditional prep school. You teach your full load, your 4 classes, and you're expected to coach two different things, right? And
Right.
so the
Mhm.
AD's looking at my resume and he's like, "Oh, you'll coach lacrosse, but what else are you going to do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I swam in high school." And he's like, "Well, we don't have a pool. We don't do that." And he keeps looking and he's looking there. And he's like, "Oh, I see you ski." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, you'll be our ski coach." And I'm like, "I've never raced before." And he's like, "Don't worry about it. You'll figure it out." And it did. It was a little nerve-wracking and things like that. But it forced me out of my comfort zone. And I picked up something again. I Lacrosse is my passion, but I will tell you, one of my all-time favorite teams coaching here is the Alpine team. I loved it. They were such a great group of kids. And if I wasn't so busy and basketball doesn't take over your life in the winter, I'd still be coaching. I'd still be coaching the ski team here if I could. So those things all kind of added up to it. I met some people. I got an opportunity. Actually, I don't know how familiar you are. I got an opportunity to play with the professional team up here, the Boston Cannons. Got an opportunity to play with them for a little while, and all these things kept happening, and it just made it feel like it was home here. And I was lucky that Derryfield gave me the opportunity to grow as an educator. I had no classroom experience. I mean, I don't know if this would happen now, but they took a chance on a 23, 22-year-old with no classroom experience and gave me some room to grow and really helped and mentored me to learn the craft of being an educator. And I know it's probably harder to do that now, but I'm so thankful that they gave me that opportunity. So before I was AD, I was a 17-year sixth and eighth grade science teacher.
Well, obviously, that athletic director saw something in you. Let's go down that road. We always like to say, talking about new coaches, you don't know what you don't know. The first year coaching, even though you knew lacrosse, what were some things that you found out that you didn't know about being a head coach?
Developing relationships and maybe how to teach and maybe how to teach. You knew how to do it yourself, right? Because you had played at a high level. But then I had to learn how to actually communicate those skills or teach those skills to somebody. I knew I could do it myself, right? But then how do I step by step methodically do those things in order to get the kids to understand how to do it themselves, right? And become there. But I think the experience, I was lucky. I had the room to grow that way as a coach, but also in the classroom. And I think those two things, I got repetition every day, right? Because, it was the same thing in the classroom, right? You can't just be the sage on the stage and get up there and lecture, especially sixth graders and eighth graders, right? They're going to be bored out of their mind, right? So how do you teach through doing, right? And experiential learning and things like that. In sports is so much. I think that's why the classroom teaching became easier for me because I realized that the experiential things that we do on the field so key to transferring into the classroom, right? Like kids are going to learn a lot faster when it's hands-on, when they can experience and do those things for themselves there. So that was definitely a learning curve in figuring that out because you come from college where you do have more of the professor standing up in front of you and lecturing and giving notes and things like that, and you quickly find out whether it's on the lacrosse field or in the classroom, the kids especially at that age start to tune you out, right? And so I was able to figure out how to run a good classroom and then how to run a good practice pretty quickly that way.
We don't get a lot of alpine ski coaches on the show. I guess I'm curious. I enjoy going out golfing with my son, but I'm not a good golfer at all. I always thought the golf coach had a racket. Just yeah, you guys go hit, and they're playing their own nine. How was it as a ski coach? Were you just out there shushing down the slopes, or were you coaching those kids?
So that's what everybody thinks, right? Yeah, they think it's like, oh man, you got to be the ski coach. You got a free ski pass every week. It's like, yeah, but it's a lot of standing at the top of the hill or at the bottom of the race hill and giving feedback and kind of looking at biomechanics. Where are the kids' hands? Are they forward in their boots? Are they leaning in on gates? Just giving little things. It's actually very similar to being a golf coach where you're looking at swing mechanics and the way in which the body moves. And it's the same thing on skis, right? So much of it is balance and the way in which, are your shoulders and hips and everything pointed down the hill in the right way, right? And trying to help kids that way. So that was one thing that I felt like I quickly figured out is that even though I wasn't a ski racer, and actually, believe it or not, they made me the JV golf coach too. So I got to be the JV golf coach too. But I learned that like I thought I had a pretty good eye for kind of seeing how kids moved, mechanics, biomechanics behind things, and helping. Even though I didn't necessarily do those things, I could help them see like, all right, this is why you're moving this way on skis, or this is why you're slicing your golf shot, right? And different things like that. So I could help them with those kind of things. So that was kind of a neat experience too.
Now, I'm curious, is the alpine skiing for high school, is that, the same events as the Olympics? Are there got snowboard in there now? I mean, what's it like being a ski coach in Vermont or in New Hampshire?
Similar. I always told kids when they came out for the ski team that it's a learn to race program, not a learn to ski. So I said your requirements, you need to be able to get on and off the chairlift by yourself. And if I put you at the top of the hill, can you get down by yourself? I don't care how fast you go, but those are like those are like I'm not going to teach you how to ski, but we can teach you how to race. And so we do giant slalom and slalom. So giant slalom is the panel gates, and then slalom is the single pole gates, right? And in the Olympics they have super G, and then they have downhill and things like that, which that those just require faster speeds, different skis, different things like that. So in high school, And the other different thing is why I liked it a lot is it is truly a team sport. While the kids, while you do place, like you can win the race, you earn points for your team. So again, that was one of the big things that I really enjoyed when I got into high school coaching is I loved the team aspect of things and like everybody having a role, everybody having a way that they're helping the team. And so whether you were, top 10 on the Alpine team, or maybe you were top 25, you were earning points to help the team do better. And I think a lot of the kids like that too, because the kids that were weekend racers, they come from that sort of cutthroat environment where it's like you're first or you're last, right? Did you win the race or did you crash? Or, and so kind of getting them out of that mindset and helping them to work together as a team was a really cool thing. Like, and again, that was kind of built culture in the hallways, right? We would do the team dinners, we do workouts together. Like that kind of took building to do that, but it was really neat when it all came together.
Oh, so for the competitive ski, it sounds similar to maybe cross country, but
Yep, exactly.
instead of placing, is it the time? Your times all get added together.
So the way they do it here, it is placement, and then
Oh, okay.
tiebreakers go to the times. So like if two teams were tied with total number of points, they would then go look at your times and then add the times to kind of see who had the total team fastest time. That didn't happen too often, but it was
Yeah.
in there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, guys, just again, I'm fascinated by different aspects of athletics and how it plays out at different schools. We've already taken a pretty deep dive into Derryfield, but guess what? We're going to do more when we come back from our break. We'll let you approach it from the athletic director's chair instead of the ski coach chair. Our guest again is Chris Hettler. He's a certified athletic administrator, and he's the director of athletics at the Derryfield School in New Hampshire. Let's take that break. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd like to say thank you to Home Campus for their support of the podcast. Scheduling, rosters, results, communication. How about facility management? Home Campus does these things and more better and faster than the other platforms. I'm telling you, their athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is a game changer. Go to homecampus.com to get started and find out all the great things they can do for you and your program. That's homecampus.com. We also want to say thanks to Beacon Creative and Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Now, Wall of Fame has been helping schools bring their legacy to life for over a decade, but Beacon Creative has taken it to a whole new level. Beacon Creative is a content creation service where they're going to take your stories, your student athletes, your narratives, and come up with compelling storytelling that you can then post on your social media platform. You really got to see it to believe it. I want you to email John Townsend, and you can do that at John, John, at beaconwalloffame.com. Beacon and Wall of Fame. It's a winning team. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. Your athletic department is doing great work, and don't let it go unnoticed. Gipper provides you with easy-to-use tools. How easy? Well, it's so easy, I can do it. That are going to help you tell your story, engage your audience, and grow your brand. The website is Gipper.com. And as always, don't forget to mention you heard about it on the Educational AD Podcast.
So Jake, just like the last commercial break there, I got to tell you, Gipper's loved by New Hampshire ADs up here. It's part of the NHIA. We use that. They're a proud sponsor of the NHIA, and a lot of our ADs use it. I think if you look at any of the social media sites of most of our high schools up here, you'll see a lot of them using it right now, and it's a pretty powerful tool. We do game day posts. I don't know what other schools down in Florida are doing, but we like to do the game day posts, game day results, highlight kids when they make all states, all American, all that kind of stuff. And I think Gipper does a great job with that kind of stuff. Saves a ton of time.
Again, you're absolutely right. And I remember as I was retiring, I was just starting to get into Gipper at our school. And part of me was thinking, boy, how did we survive? How did I survive as a high school athlete without all this social media stuff? And it just, because our kids and our parents, they just ate it up. It was just like, and the effort that it takes to do those game day posts and those social media posts is so low compared to the return that you get on it. That's what I tell ADs. Quit complaining about it. It's embrace it and use it. Do you find that your kids and your parents really like seeing those things?
They love it, and it's such an easy way to show to show your kids and your parents that look, the school values every sport here, right? Like we love seeing all of our kids compete and do well, and we want to shout out their accomplishments, right? And but I mean, just in terms of the time saving, like you can front load and you can create, when those games are going to be, right? They create all the templates for you. You've got the pictures and things, so you can sort of, you can be building those things and almost scheduling them out so that they do go out, afterwards. And I think that's, hey, part of our job is customer relationships, right? And keep, making sure, not just keeping people happy, but truly showing them that like you really do care about the sports that, you're providing at your school.
Right. And that's such an important point. That yeah, we do care, but it also, hey, what you do as a student athlete, it matters, and we're going to celebrate it. We're going to get it out there. Very cool stuff. For listeners, our guest once again is Chris Hettler. He's the director of athletics at the Derryfield School. We've heard a lot about his involvement as a coach, and he spent his entire career there. Chris, share a little bit about the school. Where's it located? What's the enrollment? How many different programs do you offer? And what makes it so special? Why have you been there your entire career?
Yeah. Well, we're a little bit of a unicorn. We're a private day school. We do compete in the public school league up here. I think, if anybody knows anything about New England and high schools and things like that, we are known for prep schools up here. When I grew up in upstate New York, no way, man, I wanted to be a Liverpool Warrior, and I didn't even know what prep schools were. I didn't know those things existed. And then, I moved to New England, and there's a lot of private boarding schools. There aren't a ton of private day schools. So we're one of the few day schools in New Hampshire, and as well, and there's some in Massachusetts and Vermont, but so we're a little bit unique in that aspect. We're a 6 through 12 school. We have about 309. We vacillate between 390 and 410 kids in the school, on any given year. We're known for small class sizes, right? So parents and kids are looking for that individual attention from teachers and coaches, getting to know your kids really well, how they learn, how they're best going to perform on the field. Those are all things that we look to provide, because we do have the smaller class sizes. I think when I was teaching, I don't think I ever had a class bigger than 15, 16 kids. And I talked to a lot of my friends who are teachers, and they've got upwards of high 20s, 30s, 40s in their classroom, and that's a lot. I know Chris Hettler at 22 would not have been able to deal with 30 something kids in a class. That would have been pretty tough. And then in terms of sports, again, for a schoolhouse small, we offer just about it. We don't have football, but we offer just about everything else that you can imagine. So from my standpoint, it takes a lot to make sure that those rosters are filled and strong every year. We have a two-sport requirement. We don't do a traditional PE class. Our kids get their athletic credit through participating in 2 out of 3 seasons of sports. But then we also try and honor, there are kids that do the play, the musical, community service, independent sports, like maybe they're into figure skating or gymnastics or rock climbing or things that we have a program for that as well. So pretty unique school, small, but like but we do a lot of things, and we do them really well here.
Since starting, as a teacher and a coach, what are some changes that you've seen from the school perspective, as well as from the athletic department perspective, that maybe kind of surprise you, that these are some changes that have occurred?
Yeah. Well, when I came here, so I came here in the fall of 2002, and we truly were a very small school at the time. We had a very small middle school, very small upper school. Facilities kind of matched that at the time. And then, like all things, we were looking at the environment and kind of the what was happening around us, and we've grown with that. Our campus physically has grown. We created more physical playing fields, a turf field, multiple grass fields for our soccer programs. We have a brand new tennis facility across the street from us. We built an indoor. We have probably one of the nicest indoor facilities in New Hampshire here for a small school. We've got three basketball courts, a rock climbing wall. We've got a strength and conditioning room that I think rivals a lot. Like we have alumni that come home, they're like, "Holy cow, your weight room's nicer than what I got at school right now." So we've really heavily invested into the infrastructure of upgrading our school and giving the kids the best experience they can have. We built a brand new dining hall here. Again, alumni come home, they're like, "Holy cow, you get this every day." We've got a food service program here that creates meals from scratch every day. The kids come in, they can get breakfast, they can get lunch. So pretty neat from that aspect. So physically, the campus has grown. And then I've seen the way the offerings. We didn't have a swim program as we mentioned earlier, no swim program when I arrived here. We now have a swim program. Didn't have a track program. We've added a track program. Our Alpine and Nordic programs have expanded. Our crew program, we have a rowing. We're one of the few high schools in the area that has a rowing program. We're right on the Merrimack River, and so we have a unique opportunity to get kids out on the river and row. So both programming and physical infrastructure have really grown over the last 24 years that I've been here.
You know, I always like to ask this question at independent schools, private schools, prep schools. I think we are all aware of the challenges of finding, great coaches to lead our programs. And I think most of us would agree, best case scenario is if we can have those coaches also teach in
Oh
the
yeah.
building, but it's not always possible. What percentage of your coaches are also teachers who are working on campus there at Derryfield?
So I'm really lucky. As I mentioned, when I first came to Derryfield, that was pretty much the model. Like if you were going to be an employee here, if you were a faculty member, you did your full load, which was at least four classes, and then you might do an activity, and then you also had your plus twos, your coaching duties. And a lot of coaches, like me, even if you weren't into that sport, you weren't proficient in it, you could still be a JV coach. You could be an assistant coach, things like that. And over time, as you mentioned, it got harder and harder to do those things. And at the end of the day, you are an educational institution and you want to attract the best faculty members you can, right? And so, sometimes those people were then asked to do, maybe they were head class advisors. We started a robotics program, things like that, right? That they could sort of do. And so that sort of shifted a little bit. And now I'm very lucky that I have a head of school that really sees the value in having our teaching staff be coaches. And I think it's swung back to probably 70-30. Probably, most of, speaking towards my coaching staff, I would say 70% of the coaches are probably internal within the building, and then about 30% external. So that's not bad. I think it's not bad for this day and age.
Oh no, absolutely. And again, I'm sure you've experienced this. I had in my career as an AD had some great off-campus coaches that
Absolutely.
they
Yeah.
understood the mission, they understood the kids, they did a great job. One, in fact, ran a huge, the biggest soccer club in Tallahassee, but was probably the best in-school soccer coach as far as philosophy and working with kids that I ever had. Just great. But again, having those coaches that walk the halls, can sit down at a lunch table in the dining hall, and just build those relationships. It's just a little different
You hit it. You
than
hit
that
it
off.
right there. It's really those touch points throughout the day, right? Like I think about, when I was a teacher, even now still as AD, I still coach the lacrosse team. It's so much easier for me, like the day before, right? Johnny and I just didn't see eye to eye on something, right? And practice didn't go well. I can grab him in the hallway and say, "Hey, man, come on in my office, or let's sit down and have lunch. I'm sorry yesterday didn't go well," right? And you can have that conversation. Whereas if you're an outside coach, you're maybe getting those kids 10, 15 minutes before practice, right? And then practice ends, and you're lucky if you can keep them there for another 10. And it's so much harder to build those relationships and it's not impossible. Like you said, there are some really, really great outside coaches, and I have some of those, but I really empathize with them on how hard it is in this day and age when those kids are so busy and you just don't get to see them as much, right? So yeah, it's definitely for the ADs, it's definitely a luxury to have those coaches in-house.
Well, Chris, we're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, find out how you do things at Derryfield, or if they just wanted to add you to their own network of athletic directors, what's the best way that they can connect with you?
Sure. Yeah, I'm like a lot of ADs, I'm constantly on my email. So, I can give it to you now, and then if you want to post at C Hettler, so Chettler at Derryfield, Derry field.org.
Well, we're going to take another break. I know that's shocking to our regular listeners, but we're coming back for more with Chris Hettler. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. Let's say thanks to our good friends at Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's through the Ohio program, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. And while they were earning their degree, they also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. You're going to be glad you did. We also want to say thanks to Booster Hub. Booster Hub is the #1 Booster Club software app, and it's not just the platform your boosters need, it's the platform they deserve. Sponsorship payments, meal fees, concession sales, it all goes through their secure system. Communication, booster volunteer scheduling, how about that? Online spiritware sales, and all of these features allow your boosters to give you more time as fans. And isn't that what you want? Go to boosterhub.com for more information. That's boosterhub.com. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Hometown. Hometown continues to be a game changer in education-based athletics with their solutions that include things like, well, digital ticketing, of course, but how about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction? Their list goes on and on. Whether you're an athletic director, a principal, even a head coach, Hometown is going to show you how to save time, how to raise more money, and how to bring your entire community together. Go to hometown.com for more information. And as always, don't forget to mention the Educational AD Podcast. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Chris, I've mentioned it several times. You are a certified athletic administrator. That doesn't happen by accident. Can you share a little bit? And I think it's important for our younger ADs, newer ADs, maybe even aspiring ADs, to hear about the journey that we take, not just with the national organization, but with our state association as well. So how did your journey begin with your state association and the NIAAA?
Sure, absolutely. So, like anything, it's a little bit like almost like how my teaching career started here at Derryfield. I had a lot of opportunities. Derryfield again allowed me as a young new employee to kind of dabble in a bunch of things. I got to work in admissions a little bit. I got to work in marketing. And then towards the end, I also, my head of school knew that I kind of had an interest in athletics and possibly athletic directing. And so had me sort of do an internship with my athletic director here, who was retiring. It was right before COVID. And he had good timing. He knew when he knew when to get out. He knew when to get out. And so while I was doing that internship, the NIAAA came across as a great resource to take some of those classes and to learn more about, the school of being an athletic director. And so throughout that time, basically the year leading up to his retirement, I took those classes to get certified. And really, it was kind of to help enhance my credibility and employability for the school here. Because again, I had been a 17-year classroom teacher, right? And while I was a coach, there's a lot more that goes into being an athletic director than just being a good coach, right? And so, taking those classes really helped everything from building a budget to building relationships with coaches, hiring coaches, dealing with parents, the day-to-day logistics of, purchasing equipment, all that kind of stuff. So it was a really great resource to kind of use while I was interviewing and getting ready to possibly be an athletic director here at Derryfield.
As you started taking the LTI courses through
Yep.
the NIAAA, what was your first impression? And a lot of times it's one or the other. Sometimes it's both. Wow, this is really great stuff. I got to bring it back to my school. Or, oh my goodness, we're not doing any of this stuff. I got to bring it back to my school.
I think it was a mix of, I think it was a mix of both. I think that's why I was so excited to become an athletic director. I had a wonderful, wonderful mentor and a guy that really supported me throughout my coaching journey there. But as I was going the whole time, I thought about ways in which I wanted to partner with him, or I was, sad that he was retiring because there was so much that I was learning that I thought, hey, you know what, we're already pretty good as a school. But these kind of things, we can enhance it and do it even better, right? There were organizational systems, there were ideas around budgeting, there was ideas around social media and marketing that were just really starting to get going, right? We had never had signing days, or we weren't celebrating our athletes in ways that we should have been, right? And so there were all these cool things that I was learning and hearing that other ADs were doing, and then I was also seeing through my coaching journey that I was excited to get started on. So it was really neat to, and I was also able to take that class, some of those classes with other ADs. So we were able to kind of throw things at each other and kind of say, hey, are you doing that at your school? Or like, have you tried this before? And, to hear their experiences were really neat too. Cause then they would offer you feedback like, yeah, we did this. And by the way, here are some things that, you probably want to look out for, or don't do while you're doing it. So
No, absolutely. And
building your
again,
network is huge.
uh,
Yeah.
you talk about conversations that you have, the networking that you do with the other ads. That's where I got what became the idea for my own CMAA project at an informal discussion roundtable during an LTI course. As someone who was on the certification committee for many years, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask, okay, you got your CAA. Are you on the track to get that CMAA?
It's really probably the project, like you said, looking into kind of what that project entails. And I kick myself because I've probably done some really good projects since I've become the AD, and really haven't taken the time to document it and things. I mean, one of the things, we really didn't have a good managerial program, right? Like, I talked about how all our kids have to have sports credits here and things like that. And one of the things that I did that was kind of inspired by the classes I took, and I know as part of the program there, is I built out a whole, how kids can earn a sports credit through being a manager for their sports pro, or for the team, right? Whether it's soccer, lacrosse, basketball, whatever it is, and doing that. So yeah, that's really the thing. I got to sit down and take the time to build out a good project and do that. So
Well, you just gave me my next talking point, and that's something we try to share with our listeners that are thinking about that CMAA. You don't have to come up with a great project idea, because I guarantee you're already doing something
yeah.
or a couple of somethings that would make a tremendous project. What you just mentioned, I don't think I ever heard that project in my many years being on certification. Doesn't mean that it's somebody else didn't think about it, but it's a great project because it has meaning to you, has meaning to your students, your school, your community. So for Chris and for all of our listeners, your state has a certification coordinator. Reach out to them. Tell them, hey, I've got this idea for a project. Feel free to reach out to me. I still work with athletic directors to help them prepare their CMAA. So keep on learning, keep taking those courses, get that certification, keep adding to your own knowledge base, and also adding to your network, because the people that you're going to meet, as Chris already mentioned, just tremendous assets to have. It's just another name in that, whether it's a virtual or an old school Rolodex that you can call up and ask for help. Chris, this has been really cool getting to know you. I think I'm going to elevate you to friend of the show status. There's just got a lot of commonalities here.
Love to come back anytime.
Okay. Well, we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you certainly have shown you know your way around the world of athletics, but we're going to take our final break here from Athletic Surveys, who sponsor this segment. When we return, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new AD on their first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 tools in the toolbox. So let's take that break, and when we come back, we're going to see what Chris Hettler of the Derryfield School puts in his new athletic director toolbox. We want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment of our podcast. At my schools, we use surveys for just about everything for student athletes, for coaches, even for parents. And here's the cool thing, the information that came back on these surveys, almost always over the top positive. We still heard from our squeaky wheel parents, but the surveys allowed us to find out their concerns, typically address them before they turned into something big. But getting back to that positive data, having all of that information was incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with that frustrated parent, sometimes even your principal, or maybe even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Chris Hettler. He's a certified athletic administrator and he's the director of athletics at the Derryfield School in New Hampshire. Has a tremendous background in leadership as a coach and as an AD. But right now, I'm going to challenge him to send out a brand new athletic director on their first job. But I'm only going to let him put 3 tools in the toolbox. So, Chris, what 3 tools are going to go into your new AD toolbox?
Ooh, man, well, you're lucky. I have been doing it now. This is my 7th year, so I'm feeling or 6th year. I'm feeling I got thrown right in during COVID, right? So like if I could survive COVID, my first year as a COVID AD, then I can pretty much survive anything, right? That was quite a time. Um, but as you and I kind of talked about off screen, there's all kinds of things, right? There's organizational tools, there's relationship building tools, like all of those things are huge, right? I preach to all my coaches all the time about, building those relationships with kids first. They need to know that you care about them, right? And you want to see them be successful and all of those things. And I think most ADs know that and they're preaching that to their coaches. But I'll try and give you some things that maybe might be different or unique. One thing that I've learned that I would give myself is a 24-hour tool. As an AD, right, you're dealing with a lot of things that in the moment seem like it's a fire, seem like it's an emergency. You've got parents, you've got kids screaming at you, and they're upset about something, right? And your first, like, if you care, your first instinct is, I want to solve this problem immediately, right? Like, I don't want these parents upset. I don't want these kids upset. I care about them. I want to fix this problem. And I will tell you, in the short time that I've been AD, I have gotten myself into trouble because I've tried to rush into things too quickly to try and fix that problem. So, the 24-hour tool is really respond, say, hey, I received the complaint or the notification, the email, whatever it is. I'm going to get back to you as soon as I can. We're going to have that conversation, right? And give it time to sleep on it. Maybe write a draft, right? And put it in your email. You don't send it right away, right? You give yourself some time to think through those things. You reach out to other people to get their take on the situation and how they might handle it or what they might do, right? You broaden your network, right? You widen the net so that you've got more help behind you. And maybe those decisions they might come from you, but maybe they don't have to be, completely your decision, right? And that way you've got more support behind you for those things, right? Because I think it gets overwhelming when, like, you've got those parents and other things wanting answers immediately. And the other thing behind that I would tell ADs is, like, don't be afraid. Pick up the phone or meet with that person in person. Because I've gotten into way too many things where you try and write the perfect email and it's never perfect, right? There's always something. But what you can do face to face or over the phone, tone, body language, other things, they don't get lost, right? And you see those things and you see the care behind somebody's facial expressions and other things like that. So that'd be the first tool. How's that?
No, that's a good, absolutely. I love it.
And then the other tool I would give an AD is, don't be afraid to admit what you don't know, right? I got caught like this as a teacher a couple of times, right? You feel like you're supposed to have all the answers, and I would say give yourself some grace, right? Like, give yourself the ability to say, you know what, I don't have the answer to that, but we're going to figure it out together, right? Because you're not perfect. Nobody expects you to have all the answers right away. And I think you get a lot more, whether it's kids, whether it's parents, by admitting, say, hey, we're going to figure this out together, right? I may not have the answer, right? Instead of trying to fake it and then they know you're faking it right away, right?
Mhm.
So, that would be the other thing I'd tell start ADs that are starting out is, it's okay not to have all the answers right away. No one expects you to have all the right answers right away. Give yourself some grace around that.
Yeah,
Um, Yeah, go
And
for it.
no, I was going to say, being able to articulate that, do it with confidence.
Yeah,
Hey, I don't know that answer, but we're going to find out.
we're
Absolutely,
gonna do it
great,
together.
great
Yeah,
advice.
yeah, yeah. And then the final thing I would tell ladies is don't be afraid to ask for help either. I think a lot of times we put a lot of, again, if you care about your job, if you're a hardworking person, if you don't, nobody gets into being an AD if they're lazy and they don't enjoy, helping kids and things like that. And too often we feel like we have to do everything ourselves. And I know that's a place of personal growth for me is I don't like delegating a lot. Like I don't like to create work for other people. I feel like this is my job. I need to do it. And it's you have to get into the mindset that like things are going to go better and they're going to run more efficiently and you're going to get more done if you ask for help, right? And it doesn't mean you're lazy or you don't want to do the work. It's just you're admitting that, hey, in order for this to be really successful and be done at a really high level, you've got to have help behind you in order to do that. So figuring out, those game day logistics and all the people that you need to help you with those things, the day-to-day tasks that, maybe the paperwork that goes into, your state association or other things so that, the games and other things go off. You need those things. If your school doesn't have an athletic secretary or an assistant athletic director, talk to your head of school, talk to your principal, whatever it is, and get those resources behind you that you need so that you can have somewhat of a life outside, because that's the other thing, right? It starts to become all consuming and you got to figure out, as much as you want to help kids and you love your job, you got to be able to have a life outside as well. So
Now, again, both of those are great points. The asking for help, again, using myself as an example of what not to do. I was reluctant to do that. I didn't want to appear like I didn't know those answers, like I was a dope. And I was a dope because I didn't go and ask people who were probably very willing to help me to help out. It's great, great stuff. Great tools. Chris, one more time, if our listeners want to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, find out how you do things at your school, or as I mentioned, just add you to the network, what's the best way that they can connect with Chris Hettler?
sure. Again, we're all glued to our computers, right? And so email is the best way. Chettler@derryfield.org. So Chettler @derryfield.org, DERRY field.org.
Well, Chris, thanks again for coming on the podcast. All the best. Keep digging yourself out of that snow. Hopefully, you're going to see some grass fields there pretty soon. And we will definitely be bringing you back on the podcast.
Jake, thanks so much. I had a great time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you. We appreciate our listeners and want to remind our listeners that we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day. We try to share stories along with some best practices. So please come back and join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.